All right. So welcome everyone to the Omar Pinto Coaching Podcast. My name is Omar Pinto, your host. And today we have my beautiful friend, Salva, right? You like that? All right. Salva Liberti.
Thank you. Thank you. Omar Pinto.
That was fantastic. That's what I'm talking about, right? I mean, I think I've waited like 250 plus episodes to hear my name being pronounced like that. Well done. So anyway, Salva and I, we go back. This is going to take me a minute because I used to call, I go back with Sal when he was Sal. So it's going to take me a minute. So Salva, I'm going to try and hold myself to.
That was my white nickname, my American nickname.
Okay. And it is, right? Like that. Totally. That is the white American nickname. Mine is O.
You say Sal, he's a guy from New Jersey. He's smoking cigars. He's eating at the pizzeria. You know what I'm talking about? That's Sal.
It is Sal. All right. So this is a different guy. This is Salva. And we met originally in 2018 when he was 22 years old at UPW. And he was right next to us. It was when I was at UPW with my friend Greg. Right next to us was this incredibly dynamic group of individuals, M1, which I ended up becoming a part of that mastermind group, which stands for March to a Million, M1. And I got into a conversation, and I'm not sure, how did I met, I think, did I meet Bridget first or did I meet you first?
You met them first, and so I was at the time working for M1 as the main recruiter, if you could, a loose title, right? And so I would go to these events under the guise of working at the event, participating, but also looking for people here and there who could be a good fit. And I think you got brought in as part of the group that you were with, like, hey, look at all these people. They're so cool and so vibrant. They would be amazing for our mastermind. And I just remember your energy, man. You were through the roof. It was amazing. I loved you from the first time I saw you. I was just like, wow, this guy is so cool. And you had this, like, not just good energy, but like this good friend vibe to you. Like a guy that likes to have fun, likes to laugh. And I love that.
It was very, very cool. I was so impressed, because at 22 years old and with the crew you were running with, as a matter of fact, at some point, somebody said, you got to meet Rock Thomas. And so I met Rock, and it was Bridget actually who introduced me to Rock. And we set up a podcast interview. So I actually got a chance to spend some time with Rock. I was on his podcast. So it was a good opportunity for me as well, just to kind of spend some time with him, and his energy. But I remember at the time I was like, I really dig this kid, and we did spend a little bit of time together talking and connecting, and I knew I was going to stay in touch with you. Like, as a matter of fact, like I wasn't completely sold on M1, and Salva would just send me these little messages, PMs on Facebook. Hey buddy, just thinking about you, great time. I was like, it was a soft sell, but I just remember I was like, I just got to reach out to this kid. And we got on the call and we spoke for, I don't even know how long. Before I knew it, I was into the group, and our relationship really kind of took off from there. He introduced me to Austin Linney, who Austin and I have become like incredibly good friends. I've watched him flourish too with his own podcast and just his own life transformation. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have Salva on here so he could tell us about his journey, because at the time I was fascinated about me being there. So we're talking 3 years ago. So that would make me at the time like 47 years old. And I was like, man, what would my life be like if I was 22 years old, right? Introduced to this world of personal development and masterminds, and just sort of connecting with such high level individuals. It was like, I got to know more. So I actually got him on the phone after I was in M1, just because I wanted to know more about him. So tell us, I really want you to tell me a little bit about what you told me, because your relationship with your mom is so beautiful. Like it's that encouragement that I think we all yearn for from a parent, to really kind of push your fledgling into personal development. So tell us a little bit about, what, influence your mother had on you when it came to getting you into this space.
Well, I'm happy to. And that goes to say that my mom is an incredible human being. I mean, she's sacrificed the most. She's the most hardworking person that I know, and one of the strongest people that I know, just so tough. And her love is what brought me into this space. But at the same time, her love and her energy was what also kept pushing me past not just landing in personal development and that achievement mindset, but to eventually break out of it. And so if we bring it all the way back, my mom, to all the way back is we moved to the United States in 2004 when I was 8 years old, and we didn't move with a single thing. We lived in not even a bedroom. It was like a half of the living room with a twin bunk bed up top. Me and my sister up top, my dad and my mom below. And all the way from that, she was a housekeeper. My dad was a chauffeur, and she got divorced, remarried, re-divorced. And in that depression and that despair and that grief, she found Tony Robbins, Big Uncle Tony. Tony Robbins changed her life. And she said to me one day, "You need to go to see this guy. I'm going to send you." And I didn't want to go. I was 17 at the time. I was in high school. I was playing sports, girls, parties, friends. I'm like, my life is great. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't need personal development. This is for people who are messed up. And so she says, "The event's in LA. I'll pay your way." I'm like, okay, I've never been to Los Angeles. So I go. She sends me and my stepdad at the time, and I love it. So much energy, the most fun you can have sober. I got to experience LA. I got to be in the room, see a lot of cool people. There were a bunch of athletes there, so that really connected with me. And then at the end, it didn't quite hit home. I was like, this was cool, but maybe not for me. My life's pretty great. I don't have anything wrong with me. Then I got to college, and I got very lonely. I went to a school where I didn't know anybody. I was having a tough time finding a social circle, and I kind of hit a weird rock bottom. I was living in an apartment alone. I got myself a dog because I was so lonely, and I had no direction in what I wanted to do. And so I'm like, okay, there's one thing I know is personal development, maybe. So let me sign up to crew Tony Robbins. That decision had me crew. Now it's been 13 times.
Oh,
In the last 7 or 8 years.
damn, I love it.
Events all over the world, all over the US. I even did one in Amsterdam back in 2019, which is cool. But that experience has really opened up everything that's great in my life right now. Every person that I know that is of a growth mindset, that has poured into me, that has benefited me in some way, and I've given back to them, has come from that environment. And it's been so amazing because it opened me up to a space where I got to meet people. And this goes back to what you were saying, like you, right? Who would tell me all the time, they would say, "Salva, if I were you at your age right now, I don't know where I'd be, but I would imagine it would be different." And so you find yourself in those rooms where you're there seeking the same thing, right? Eventually you're in the same place, right there. There's nowhere else to be. It doesn't matter how old you are, but you're in the same place looking for the same thing. How the fuck do I be happy?
Oh my God, it's so true.
How can I be happy? How can I live a fulfilled life? And those lessons were there from the beginning, but it was a lot of introspection that had to happen first. As the Greeks say, know thyself. And I like to add on there at the end, know thyself so you can undo yourself. Because I don't care if it's your personality profile, your 6 human needs, your Enneagram, your astrology, all this stuff is just stuff, right? To self-identify with and help you understand yourself better, but only for you to transcend those tendencies, transcend those things. So you can actually be a full expression of yourself. That's a mouthful. There's a lot to unpack there. But I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for those events, because once I finished college, I was at a UPW. This was earlier in the year that we met, a different UPW in San Jose. And I ran into Rock, our mutual friend, who had been my friend for about 5 years at that point. And he said, well, Salva, what are you doing? What are you doing after school? I'm like, I have no idea. I just got a degree because that's what everybody else does. Like, I don't know. And so he said, why don't you come work for me? I'll teach you, I'll coach you. So he brought me on to work for this high-level mastermind where I was interacting with millionaires, investors, all kinds of business people. And I'm this 22-year-old punk out of school. Yeah, I think I know a lot, but I was the one running the calls and, setting the appointments online and helping him sell this mastermind, and was so privileged to be able to be part of it, because I learned the strategies that they learned to create their life, to achieve financial freedom, change your lifestyle, your health, your relationships, all this kind of stuff. I learned it early. So I felt like I got a really good jump on life in that way. But for as fast as you think you want to go and as fast as you think you are, life is always going to be really holding the wheel. You're not the one in control here. And it's going to give you your lessons one way or another. And mine came when I realized that I had learned all of this, right? 13 Tony events, 1 year in a mastermind filled with millionaires and all these people. But I still had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. Not a clue. So I said, fuck it. I quit the job. I sold my car and I packed a suitcase and I went to Europe for 4 months and I just traveled. I just went. I had a one-way ticket. I had no idea how I was going to come back to the US, but eventually I did. After I landed in Spain, and then I came back from Italy 4 months later. And that journey was so powerful because it taught me not only about presence and being in the moment and enjoying every second and not worrying about what the next day will look like, what's around the corner, but to really how to be right there. And the most valuable thing I got from traveling and having new experiences every single day was that I got to shed this layer of expectations and projections that had been on me ever since I was a kid.
Because expectations and projections.
Yes.
By who?
By my wonderful mother. Moms love us. Moms love us, and they're the best. They want the best for us. And that's why she sent me to those things, because she knew that I would soak it up. But at the same time, my mom had this vision of, I'm going to be the next Tony Robbins, right? The coach, the speaker, the millionaire, all this. And I'm like, Mom, I would love to be successful in those ways as you define it, but I need to live my life to figure out what I want, how I want to express myself, not what you want for me. And that was so important, not only because of what you want to do in life and how you want to live it, but how you see yourself as well and what definitions you carry with you. Because when you're traveling, you're meeting new people every single day. And they don't know where you went to school. They don't know where you grew up. They don't know who your parents are, who your siblings are. They just see the person right in front of them. And you get to be whoever you want to be, or
whoever you want to be. Yep.
And so that was so liberating, because I was like, okay, I can finally start kind of coming back to me, coming home. And I find that most of our journey is coming back to who we really are, learning to play as kids and having that curiosity, that thirst for the moment, for life. And that's what I found. And lo and behold, after those 4 months, I said, I'm not unpacking. I just packed a second suitcase and I moved over here, and I'm in Los Angeles now. Living the dream, baby.
God, I love it. I love it. It's and 25 years old.
Now, yes.
Yes, at 25 years old, there you are living your dreams, and not even living your dreams, like living a dream, because you're still in this beautiful journey and this beautiful process. I'm curious because as you were just about to talk about your mother, I was thinking we started with Sal's mom, and I wanted to go back, and then you're like, hey, I needed to start doing what I wanted to do. So when you told your mom, hey, mom, I thank you, I appreciate, and I wouldn't have the opportunities I have or the choices that I have if you hadn't pushed me in. So I'm grateful, but I got to find my own way. What did she say?
She was supportive at first because I had it set up. I earned enough money working and I had a bit of a plan. When she was a little bit, discombobulated a little bit was when I said I'm moving to LA with zero plan, because I had just traveled 4 months in Europe. So I blew all that money. It would have made sense if before Europe, I would have said, I'm moving to LA with 10 grand in my pocket, right?
Right.
That's cool. But no, I'm moving to LA with nothing in my pocket.
Fuck,
I'm burning the boats. Everybody said, I was like, okay, you want to go to Cali? That's fine. Go get a job, go save up, and maybe move in a year. I'm like, that's not going to happen. I won't. I'll get comfortable.
This is so good. We're going to fucking pivot left and right. So this is so important, because sometimes when you're listening to somebody's life and they're really like in a good place, we miss these really important moments where you're out of cash. Okay. Because cash, that's what makes all the difference. That's what really kind of like, that's when we talk about burning the boats, or we talk about the big life lessons, right? It's one thing to have, like you say, money in the pocket, and I'm like traveling and I'm making my way. All of a sudden I'm like broke, and I'm going to move to a different state completely, right? And I'm going to start over. And what was the big plan when you landed in LA? Like, what was the big, like, okay, I'm going to go to LA and do what?
Man, I'm going to go to LA, and the first excuse, because it was an excuse, was I'm going to act.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
LA. Everybody, I'm going to go to LA and I'm going to become a fucking actor.
So when I was growing up in Miami as a kid, I acted as a kid. I did lots of Univision, Telemundo commercials type of vibe, lots of Hispanic market stuff. I'm like, oh, I got this. I used to do this. And then I got to LA and I quickly realized that I didn't like acting.
Interesting. How did you know that?
By going to acting classes.
So how did you get into acting classes with no money?
Credit cards.
Dude, this is why you have to ask. Like, I'm just going to put everything on the line. Okay. I'm going to go all in, and you didn't even want to act, but I'm going to go all in anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did it take before you realized, dude, I'm not doing this?
Oh man. About 3 free acting workshops, getting coerced into an acting workshop at the Scientology Center. And then paying for one and realizing, man, I don't feel good at this, because I like to be myself, and I don't want to go be someone else. I just want to be me.
When you guys moved, when you were 8 and your parents moved, where'd you guys move from?
We moved from Lima, Peru.
Oh, wild. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Lima, Peru to Miami.
All right. I wanted to clear that up, because you started with we moved, and I'm like, from where? Okay. So that closes the loop in case there was listeners waiting to find out. I got you covered. All right. So now you're in LA. You figure out I'm not doing this. What's your next move?
The next move, what was it? Oh, man, go to another Tony Robbins event.
Nice. Okay. So we have to pause. Okay. We have to stop. So it's a reset. Okay. So a lot of times what we need is just to get our feet back on the ground. So you already had, there's that first phase where you went to school and you got an education, feet on the ground. Okay. And then you go to that UPW event, you start meeting people, you meet up with Rock. He takes you under his wing Okay, there's another foundational moment, right? Where you've got someone that you're working for, you are learning, you're creating more of a foundation. And then there's all the different UPWs where you're crewing and you're meeting people, right? But ultimately, here's the thing. Everyone has their home, so to speak. Kind of like what Tony Robbins talks about, your emotional home. But in this case, it's almost like your emotional foundation. And when you're not sure what your next move is, I go crew at another event. Right? Let me just kind of get my head straight. Is that basically, am I like characterizing that correctly?
At the time, yes, that's what it was. It was a way for me to put a little bit more fuel in the tank, a little more energy, a little more inspiration. And not only that, but meeting people. Every opportunity that I've had since college has come from someone I've met at a Tony Robbins event, period.
All right. So you go to the UPW event and then what?
I go to the Date with Destiny event. It was
Okay.
really
So then I'm right around that time.
No, this was a year after. This was in 2019.
Okay. So you went to Date with Destiny twice?
Twice, yes.
Okay. So tell us about that. So you go there, you crew at Date with Destiny.
I go there, I crew a Date with Destiny. My mom crews with me, actually, and her and I have one of the most transformative experiences in our history and our relationship, because we watch a woman stand up and talk to Tony, as people get called at the events, and her story rhymed with ours. And so we said, wait a minute, is that us? And this woman's story was a single mother who was struggling with her relationship because she put her young son on a pedestal above the relationship and wouldn't budge for that. And my mom and I turned and looked at each other, and she said, I do that 100%. I put my kids before my relationship. And every relationship therapist will tell you that that's wrong, right? The relationships first, the kids will be fine. They're like, they'll fly the coop and they're gone. They'll be good. And that was a very transformational moment, because she not only had put me on a pedestal, but she'd almost had me under contract as the man in her life, the one that was going to provide security at some point down the line, the one who was supposed to be the masculine polar opposite to her feminine. And there was so much pressure on me from that to take care of her, not only her, but my two younger sisters. I grew up with all sisters and her because my parents split when I was 11. But that was such a big realization. And when she, with tears in her eyes, she said, you're fired. I'm free. I felt a weight, a 20-pound weight come off my shoulders at that moment. It just went whoosh. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could live my own life, not have that. You often hear, for example, athletes, right? Basketball players, football players, they say, the first thing I'm going to do is buy my mom a house, right? I still want to do that, but it's not something that's the first thing in my mind, that I have to make money to support my family, because they're going to be fine. And so I was set free at that moment. And it was so powerful. We cried together. It was a beautiful moment. But from that moment on is when my mom began to let go of all of these expectations for me, and was truly happy for me just being happy. She stopped asking, what are you going to do for work? What are you going to do for this? How are you going to take care of yourself? She just said, hey, are you okay? Are you happy? I would say yes. And to this day, we still have the same conversation. And she just gets so lit up by how excited I sound about life here in Los Angeles, where she's never been here and she doesn't know what it's like, but she just knows that something's calling me, and there's so much out here for me at, and I've discovered it. I keep discovering it every day. And my life has not been the same ever since I've been here, and just grown by leaps and bounds. And the types of people I've met have been amazing, just amazing.
I'm listening. I'm tearing up here. I'm like so connected to your story, because my story didn't go that way. I'm still under contract. I'm under irrevocable contract. You know, I've spent so many years of my life trying to get out of that contract. And then it's like, I feel myself like my body's trying to heal itself right now. Like it's trying to heal itself from the realization and the awareness of how beautiful your story just sounded to me, because I realized that it's what I've been wanting to hear for many, many years. I mean, I'm 50 years old. You're 25. And your mother gave you an incredible gift, the gift of freedom and independence, and to be your own person, free from the obligation that she didn't mean to do. She didn't mean to put that burden on you. And I know my mother didn't mean to put that burden on me, you know? But I know it's still there. It's caused, like, I've had back pain since I was your age.
I've had shoulder pain.
Yeah. Right. Oh yeah. And it's all there. It's this attachment that is there, that it's always there. And I mean, I've gone to physical therapists, and I finally go to a woman that does Reiki, and she's like, "That's your mother." You know,
Is
and
your mother
so,
still alive?
oh yeah, she's 15 minutes from me, bro. Oh yeah. Oh no. She's 80 and just, you know, relentless. This is, and really, the reason why I want to chime in primarily is, you know, for those of you that are listening, like for me, it's like impossible to release myself from that, because it's almost like she has to tell me, "You're fired. I'm letting you go." Right? Like that's her. And I know that for a part of me, you know, my daughter, she's about to turn 18. And I've said, I don't need you to do anything for me. And I am only here to support you in your journey, in this journey called life. So you need to go out there and figure it out. So whatever you decide to do for school, it needs to be what you decide. And your relationships, it's what you decide. And I'm only here as your support, right? Because I've got some life lessons. And if you need my help, I'm here to guide you. But other than that, I need to let you go. I need to set you free. Okay. You need to experience life on your terms. And I guess I learned that from my mother, because that's what I was hoping for, right? And as you're listening to this right now, if you're in that relationship, right, I feel your pain. But if you're a parent, this is like, you know, thank you, Mom. Thank you, Miss. Is it what's your mom's name?
Her name's Gianni Goretzky.
All right. Well, Gianni, well done. Well done. Cause that's, if you're a parent, and now I know, you know, that's what I needed to do. And I did it, right? If you're a parent, let them go. Let them go. It's not, you know, we were talking about that 20-pound weight, that 20-pound burden. It's probably more like 20,000 pounds. Okay. Cause that's what it feels. It doesn't feel like 20 pounds. I can carry 20 pounds, man. It feels like the weight of the world.
But you can carry 20 pounds for 5 minutes, but how heavy does those 20 pound feel after 50 years?
It's heavy, dude. It feels like 200 pounds. Yeah. So anyway, I what an incredibly beautiful story. And again, how impactful is it, and how important is it to, when you're listening to a story like this, ask yourself where you are in that, when it comes to those relationships. Where are you with your own parents? Where are you with your own children? And where can you let them go and let them live their own lives, right? I've heard that, and I read somewhere that, you know, some people don't start actually living their lives truly, genuinely, and authentically until their parents are gone. And I don't mean like gone out of the state. I mean like gone out of this world.
Gone. And that is so true, because they could let you go and still be living, but that is just the beginning of opening up a bit of a box of emotions, because that was the beginning for me. Once she let me go, I realized that I used her measures of success and her expectations as a measure for my own success. And so once she let me go, then I had to learn how to love myself unconditionally and not criticize myself and have compassion for myself. That took about another year.
What was that? Tell us about that work. Tell us about, because there's a lot of different paths you can take to do that work. What was that path for you?
That path, wow. Well, Omar, when you live somewhere where none of your family lives and you wake up every day and you don't have a job and you're creating your day as you go, it can be really easy to sleep in till 11 and then get up and beat yourself up for not having used that morning. And it was in those little cycles of self-chastising and self-criticism where I almost drove myself crazy with that, because I said, I can't live like this. And I started to understand that I needed to change my own definition of success, and I needed to be gentler with myself and more accepting and more surrender more to where I was in life. I spent my life fast tracking through things. I moved from place to place and I made friends really fast, made my way to the top with the popular kids at every school I went to. And I went to college and I finished quicker than everybody else. And then I was working for Rock and I was the youngest in every room that I walked into. And then life said, oh no, here's the pace where you're actually going to move at, because you're still in your 20s. You're not going to get everything you want right now. So have some patience. That was a big step. And then I had to, so if you remember at the beginning of the story, I got myself a dog when I was in college. And that dog was the best dog in the world. His name was Brady. Shout out to Tom Brady.
Yeah.
27th Super Bowl. And he was the best, man.
Fucking legend.
Legend.
Sorry. I was thinking about Tom Brady.
Well, little puppy Brady was a legend too. He was a lady killer. He never barked. He was the best dog I ever had. And Brady, last year in 2020, I flew home in August to spend time with my family mid-pandemic. And on that trip home, Brady died in my arms. My little buddy, my little best friend, who had been there with me through my worst moments, comforted me when I was alone. He was living with my mom at the time because I was traveling so much, and she formed a special bond with him. But the number one thing that I like to think about and feel into when someone close to me or someone significant has passed away is, what's their best quality? What are they best remembered for? And how can you integrate and try and embody that as much as you can in their memory? You know, if you talk about Kobe Bryant, it might be his work ethic, right? His dedication. But if you're talking about a dog, there's only one thing. It's unconditional love. No matter what, the dog is going to wag his tail and be excited as hell to see you every day when you walk in that door.
You are fucking me up, man.
And when Brady passed away, I came back to Los Angeles, heartbroken, and I sat with a medicine. I sat with a plant medicine in that journey. The knowing came to me that Brady had passed for a purpose. Brady said, I've loved you unconditionally this whole time, and now it's time for you to start doing it.
Dude. What was the medicine?
It was mushrooms.
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin mushrooms.
Oh, absolutely beautiful. Go ahead.
That moment I cried. I burst completely open because I realized that I had never loved myself unconditionally. And it's not because of anything my mom did or anything like that. Sure, her expectations and mine not living up to them, I self-criticize for it, but it's always you. It's always up to you, right? So no matter if she had set me free or not, that lesson was coming anyways. But it was much easier once she'd set me free. for me to be able to see that.
Dude, animals are the absolute pinnacle of unconditional love and happiness and joy. That's all they are. They are just happiness, love, and joy. You know, people that don't have pets are missing out. And there's a reason why you don't have a pet, you know, as you know, I mean, obviously there's a part of your journey that you still need pain and suffering. But, you know, we have the 2 dogs and 3 cats, and, you know, we can't even imagine our lives without them. We treat them like little babies, right? And there is this beautiful facet of unconditional love that they teach us every single day. You know, it allows us, and not only that, it allows us to feel that unconditional love every single day, because they're always the same. Always. There's no change. It's a constant. It is something that it is certainty. They provide us with certainty in our lives. And it's such needed certainty. And it's one of the things that, like, I remind my clients too, because my God, do we all struggle with that journey of finding ourselves? You know, like, we're on this earth and on this journey of self-discovery. That's it. That's what all of this is all about, is to find yourself, folks. Spoiler alert. But spoiler alert, right? The plant medicine just helps, right? It kind of accelerates us, like, oh shit. Oh, oh my God, I love me.
The plant medicine goes, if your life is a movie, it goes, cut. What's going on? What are we doing wrong here?
New script. Somebody gave him the wrong script, right?
We need to rewrite.
Right. But ultimately, because that's whole idea of self-love is like, I you know, some people are like, okay, so what is your coaching objective? I want to learn how to love myself. I'm like, wow. Okay. So a lot of times I'll leverage, if they have children, all right, I'll ask them about the relationship with their children. And that tells me a lot. And I can usually leverage that, because it's like, tell me about your relationship with your daughter or your son. And they're typically in that, when they're seeking and they're looking for that unconditional love, or the ability to love themselves, there is so much love and attention and care that they pour into these children. And I go, yeah, the universe delivered your child to teach you how to love yourself.
The whole world is a giant mirror.
It is. Continue. Go.
And it's all reflections. And I love what you said about spoiler alert, because it feels like that sometimes. And I want to preface this by saying, a great Kundalini yoga teacher of mine once said, plant medicine is not a lifestyle, it's an intervention. And I firmly believe this. That's why I think that most people would be well served by at least one experience where their projection and their perception is just interrupted. You're taken out of the mind, and you are able to expand and see what the truths are. And they're not a lot of them, but they're very simple. And one of them is self-discovery, self-love. And what you said is so true about animals providing that certainty, because that certainty, they're there to provide that for us, so we can learn to develop that certainty in ourselves. Because guess what? Home is not a place. Home is inside. And when you love yourself unconditionally, you create that certainty within.
I feel full right now. As you were saying that, I could feel my heart chakra just kind of expand, and I could feel it like vibrating, and I recognize, go ahead.
And your heart chakra is blocked by one thing.
Ego.
Grief.
Expand.
Grief blocks the heart chakra. And grief, as most people understand it, is mourning someone, right? You're sad, you're upset because someone passed. But grief is also grievance. And every grievance you have with your life, with the way that you think it should be and how it's not, that also blocks your heart chakra, because you're not loving it and you're not loving yourself. You're not loving your experience.
Keep going.
That's it.
This is so good. This is so good, right? Like I love when I'm learning something, especially from someone who I could be their father. So I'm, like I had not put those two together, right? So it's that whole idea of, well, what's blocking it, what's blocking that out. It's a grievance. And so regrets, resentments,
grievance is non-acceptance, right? So is grief. You grieve because you haven't accepted that person has passed. But as our great master Yoda once said, rejoice for those who become one with the force. Mourn them, do not. Miss them, do not. That's it.
That's it. That's it. Like, I didn't know I was going to get a Yoda quote out of this, but fucking, you can never have too many Yoda quotes.
No.
So was that one of your first experiences with plant medicine?
No, my first, well, if you count LSD as plant medicine, because technically it is, LSD is derived from a fungus. My first one was in college, was recreational. So there's recreational and ceremonial experiences. Recreational being you drop some acid at a concert and go with your buddies and you have a good time, which is fun. It can be fun. Or in ceremonial is you're going to sit with an intention with the medicine. You're not going to go to a party. You're not going to go to a concert, but you're going to sit there with yourself. And my first experience was recreational. I was in my college house with a bunch of fraternity brothers, and we dropped each 2 tabs of LSD, and it bent my mind. It was a lot for the first time. But while everybody was tripping out, watching the walls melt, I said, there's something here. There's something here. And at 20, 21 years old, I got an inkling. I got a peek behind the curtain, but it wasn't enough. And so that started on my curiosity. And as I kept going back to personal development, I met people who would say, man, I just came back from Peru. I did an ayahuasca journey. I'm like, what's that? Okay. So if the people who've been here in the personal growth space for years are doing this now, if you agree with it or not, it's a path. It's sort of a subset, and it's an exploration, a discovery of more that's beyond. And these ancient traditions, ancient arts, ancient medicines that have been tabooed in the past 50 years by the war on drugs, what do you want to call it, society and all that stuff. If you want to think that it's to control the masses, keep people unconscious, feed consumerism, that's what I believe. You want to believe that? That's cool.
I'm 100. That's once you've done a few plant medicine journeys, you get to find out the truth, and that is it. That's part of it. That's just one of the many.
Right. They don't want you to be awake. They don't want you to be fully expressed. And that's when I said, okay, there might be something here. And upon my arrival here in LA, that world has opened up for me massively. Whether it's been with psilocybin journeys and ceremonies, whether it's been with ayahuasca in my own experience, but going deeper and undoing and shedding the layers of projections and expectations and fat, and you still keep doing it, though it can be a slippery slope, and anything doing anything too much. If you're always looking for something to fix, always looking for something to heal, there always will be. So once you've healed, once you fix yourself, start working under the assumption that you're perfect. You're already where you're meant to be. You're feeling exactly where you're meant to feel, and start from that point. Not, oh my God, I've got all this baggage with me that I have to undo. Just let it go, right? Just put down the bags.
And go ahead.
Oh, well, there's a great book that I really love and I would recommend called Letting Go by Dr. David R. Hawkins. And in the introduction, he is so funny. He goes, I don't care what mushroom journey, what ayahuasca, what Kundalini yoga class, what breath work you've done, what sound healing, crystal bowls, soul searching trip to Bali, massage therapy, acupuncture, Reiki, whatever you've done to heal yourself,
I've done most of that.
is effective. and I have too. So that's why I was laughing. I'm reading this and I'm like, this is funny. This is a laundry list of everything I do.
I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, so nothing. Go ahead.
Nothing will give you the healing and the satisfaction and the freedom that letting go does. Just let it go. And that made it click.
It's that attachment that is, the attachment is the root of all suffering. And, and I mentioned this.
What is attachment?
Attachment is an inability, well, I guess, from my perspective, an inability to let go, right? Well, actually, it's more funny. I've never even been asked this. So first of all, I'm going to be like, hold on. Let me think about this for a second, right? Because what is attachment? So attachment right now, what's coming to me is looking for something outside of myself to make me feel better about something that I feel is missing inside of me. I don't know. That's what just came.
Okay. Yeah.
What about you?
Something external. We can be attached to external things 100%.
Well, I am. I'm attached to my daughter. I'm attached to my wife. Okay. I'm attached to my business, right? I'm attached to my,
which is great because it gives life meaning, right? And relationships create love. And that's a beautiful thing. We're not all meant to be monks detached from everything on earth, right? That's not the purpose. But we get attached to outcomes. And attachment, as a dear friend of mine, Nicholas Spohn, he's a great hypnosis teacher and hypnotist, and a coach as well. He defines attachment as, and I don't know if it's his, but I heard it from his mouth. Attachment is a kinesthetic feeling in the body connected to a desired outcome.
There it is. Perfect. There's nothing else that needs to be said. And there's the truth, right? It's not that there's nothing wrong with being attached to my wife or my daughter. What is going to be painful, it's going to be suffering, is when I attach myself to an outcome to that relationship, right? Or really anything, right? An outcome, any sort of an outcome attached to my podcast and the number of downloads I get. Like if I'm attached to what that means, how many downloads I get on my podcast, what does that mean? And right now I just shifted. So I had my other podcast that was doing like 30,000 downloads. And I've got a new podcast that I'm not even going to divulge how many downloads it gets. Right. So there's like, oh, there you go. That peek behind the curtain. Omar's attached, right? Attached to, being married to my wife for the rest of my life, or, her being with me until I die. Right. Right. So like, I'm always like, I'm going to go first. Why? Because I'm attached to her. I'm attached to living with her. I'm attached to spending time with her. What would my life be like, without her? Right. So I base my happiness, my joy, whatever, my experiences based on this expected outcome. So I'm glad we kind of went there so I can explain that even better to my clients. Cause a lot of times they're like, well, is it okay? Are there healthy attachments? And I go, yeah, of course. And I explain that facet of it, which is, hey, we're all, as human beings, who would we be if we didn't have or form an attachment with others or to things? Okay. We desire things. That's what we are as human beings. We are predisposed to desire. That's what gives us momentum and moves us forward. Otherwise, if we didn't give a shit, if we didn't have desires, if we didn't form attachments, we'd be potato heads sitting around doing nothing. We'd be just, whatever.
Absolutely. We're made for connection. And those attachments are healthy because they're going to teach you at some point about
letting go,
about letting go, about cultivating the love within yourself. I was attached to my dog. I lost him, and that was a
Oh.
huge lesson. And a lot of people, no relationship is forever. It's gonna end, whether by death or by choice, but it will end.
So listen, we could deviate all day long on this topic, but I want to get to and thank you, Salva,
Mm-hmm.
because we really, I mean, I loved where we went. Okay, and it's for me, stories are everything. You know, they touch the heart, they touch the soul, they connect us, right? And your story is beautiful. I knew I wanted to jump into it, and I got like 10x, you know, from when we first met, and I learned a little bit about you. I know so much more, but I want our listeners to know about the Salva of today. You know, I was looking at your website and what you do, you know, spiritual coach, meditation guide, breath work. So there's these different facets that you, and these different resources that you now provide to others. So just tell us a little bit about how you got involved with, from going to, I'm moving to LA to be an actor, to doing what you do now.
Mm. So in the midst of recruiting for a high achieving mastermind group and working sort of like the most intense work I was doing in the personal development industry, was the moment where I was most unhappy. And I needed to find something to relieve stress, to calm my mind. And that's when I found meditation. Meditation changed the whole game. It allowed me to leave my mind for a little bit, reduce the stress that I was feeling, the anxiety, because I had a lot of fears around that kind of work. I was on the phone with, you know, what by some people's definitions of success were successful, and I was a punk. You know, I was 22 years old trying to sell them a mastermind program. And in that, I noticed that there was something special about meditation and what the benefits of that brought me. And so I began to read some books. I started with The Untethered Soul by Michael A. Singer, my first dive into spirituality and what it means to be alive. Fast forward a year, and I'm in LA. I start going to more yoga classes, and then I discover, wow, this is really amazing. It's something that I'd like to be a part of, to teach people, because as you know, as a coach, you gotta lead someone to the answers. You can't give them the answers because you know the answers. They need to find them out on their own. So
Shit, I don't know the answers. I'm guessing best I can. So go ahead.
We are. Everybody's got their own answers. And so I was like, okay, I don't want to coach people. Everybody's a coach these days. Jeez. I want to guide people. I'm going to say, here's a tool that I use to discover this. Now let's see if you can do it yourself. And just like riding a bike, nobody learned with, a speed bike, right? Everybody learned with training wheels or with their dad or their mom holding the seat behind them. And that's what I like to do. I like to get people in a place where they are meditating every day. They're doing their breath work. They're becoming introspective. They're becoming more self-aware, and they're introducing more presence and gratitude into their lives. And so the tools for that are meditation, which is guided. I guide people on 10, 20, 30, 40-minute meditations that involve not just learning to meditate and following your breath and staying focused and keeping a clear mind, because that's passive meditation. I like to work with active meditation, where you drop into that brainwave state and you can do some tinkering and some energy work in order to be able to let go of attachment, to call back your power and your energy from people who are dragging it and sucking it up, because we leave fragments of spirit and energy behind our lives when we give it away. And so how can you call all that back so you can have the energy that you need to live your own life how you want it? Is such a big part of my work. And doing a lot of emotional healing. And so inner child healing, self-love work, forgiveness is the first step to all of this. You want to take a step, if you want to take a peek, learn to forgive. and others. But when you forgive others, you're really forgiving yourself for having held on to that resentment of them, because it didn't affect them, it affected you. And so that's a lot of the work, man. And so that's the work I do with clients now. And I lead them through, if needed, a plant medicine experience. That's further down the road. And that's where we built rapport and confidence, and the person feels comfortable with me. And that's my work to contribute to others. I've got other passions as well. I don't always want to be in this space where I'm being the person that people talk to when they're upset or something, because it makes me happy to serve others, but I like to do other things. I like to cook. I like to play. I like to hike. I like to live life, you know?
And ultimately, there is that imbalance. So for most of the time, you know, what I recognize predominantly with even with my own clients is an unbalance, because I'm either going 100 miles an hour, Mach 12, working like a beast, and it's just achieve, kill it, make money, you know, the house, the car, the family, and there is no stopping for appreciation, for acknowledgement, for joy. You know, it's almost as if and I've asked some people, I'm like, you know, because it's always about asking the question, right? What do you think is preventing you from living the life, you know, a life of happiness, fulfillment, and joy? And I remember one of the answers was, I haven't earned it yet. And it's like, this is on a cellular level, subconsciously, what most people are going through. It's this inability to feel like I've made it yet, earned it yet, I haven't done enough yet, ultimately, which leads to I am not, it isn't enough, which translates to I am not enough. And that pain that persists is this: I achieve, I'm waiting to feel what I want to feel. Nope, that's not it. I keep achieving and I go to the next achievement. And it's like, okay, this time I've got to feel the way that it's supposed to feel, or I'm expecting to feel something. And it never comes, because what you've perceived to be success, or what you see visually out in the world as success, which is usually these external things, what you're trying to do is feel the peace and contentment and appreciation for work well done. And no one's taught you.
Some of the worst you see is in the US.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's just, everything's that much faster. Everything's all about achievement, about more, about excess. And you see, I mean, you don't see the kinds of mental health issues you do in the US all around the world. You know, you go to Italy and they're like, I'm happy. I'm here, drinking my coffee, eating my pasta. I'm living life every day. I'm happy. They work to live. They don't live to work. Americans live to work. And
that's all learned. That's programming.
That's programming, right? You're not enough. You're not good enough. And we get programmed into that every day when we watch TV, when we watch the commercials. You don't have this, you're not enough. You should buy this. Not only that, but hell, that comes with, like, you know, if you're raised Catholic, right? Everyone's born a sinner. Why the fuck are we born sinners? Why can't we be born perfect? Why have we not earned this space right now to be here right now? If we can start from a place of not entitlement, but acceptance and fulfillment, that we're here for a reason and we've already earned our place. And all we have to do in this life, the sole purpose of life, is to live every moment. Because I kind of want to get into this, because I talk about this with our friend Austin often, right? Purpose. Everybody talks about, what's my purpose? And if you go to a Tony event, right, they'll make you write your purpose, and everybody's got their cool purpose. And you stand up and you shout it from the rooftops and you say, my purpose is to change lives by becoming a coach, or speaking in panels and inspiring people. And then, you know, someone says a better one and you're like, oh, my purpose isn't as good as that guy's. And then you get to comparing again.
Judge. You get to judge.
You judge yourself. You judge them. becomes this vicious cycle. And so what if we redefine purpose, right? And that is what that movie, I don't know if you've seen this, Disney's new movie, Soul.
Oh, dude.
Oh man.
I just got goosebumps. It's my all-time favorite movie now moving forward. As you're listening to Salva talk about Soul, if you can get it, it'll change your life.
Get it, pirate it, Disney Plus it, I don't care. Watch the movie and then watch it twice. Because the biggest message from that movie is that humans think that purpose is something outside themselves that they have to achieve, that they have to be good enough for. But guess what? There's only one purpose of life. That's to live it to the fullest. You can have passions, you can have sparks and projects, things that you love to do and you love to pursue that make life worth living, that make life that much juicier. But your sole purpose is to just live in the moment.
You know, I did Bufo.
Oh.
And the message that I got was that your purpose is to give and receive love and joy. That's it. There's nothing else. There's nothing else. You just needed to figure that out. Your purpose is to give and receive love and joy. And I just remember coming back from that, and everything made sense. It's one of those moments where you're like, I know the truth, right? I know the truth. I felt, and it's a knowing through feeling. There's no way to express it or explain it. There is this indescribable feeling of bliss and joy in that space where there is no pain, there is no suffering, there is no fear. There is only bliss, love, and joy. But bliss is not a feeling that you can feel for very long. It's too intense and too powerful. But we have access to it through these glimpses, which is love and joy and connection with others, right? So ultimately, yeah, we have all these lofty goals that have been programmed to distract us
consciously. And you said, bliss isn't something that it might be too intense to experience all the time, but we can experience it once a day for 20 minutes in the morning in our meditation. And that can connect us every day a little bit more to it and cultivate that. And it's not about discipline. It's about being devoted and loving yourself enough to give yourself that.
It is again, and I'll remind all of us, we're here. The minute you're born, the objective is to find yourself again. Okay, that's the whole, spoiler alert, you're here to find yourself, right? And it's intentional. It's intentional. Life would be fucking boring if we knew the outcome. So
can I add to that?
Yeah, bring it on.
The reason why we're here is to find yourself, but you'll spend a lifetime looking around because you have to look within. And so maybe finding yourself can be said as undoing yourself. Because you spend most of your adult life until you come to this moment realizing that you've just taken on things and you got to take them off.
Well said.
It's like you ever watch Friends and Joey decides to put on everything in the closet? That's what people are walking around right now.
Absolutely. So Salva. Okay, so two questions. All right. So number one, if our listeners want to reach out to you, because I just love what you got going on, and when I went to your link tree, you have some free guided meditations.
I do every Wednesday evening at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I host a Zoom guided meditation and breathwork class. It's about 45 minutes. And it's a different topic every week. It's a different focus every week. And it's an introduction into my work. I guide it live every single Wednesday, and anybody can come. It's free for all. to come experience that magic and take away something. I always tell people, take this with you and put it into your practice, because this is the key. You got to practice every day, every single day. You can't miss it.
So if they want to find out about that, if they want to reach out to you personally, what's the best way for them to find you?
The easiest way to find me is on Instagram, at salva.live. I'm on there. I respond to all my messages. You can find my links in there. Keep up with what I'm putting out. I put out videos talking a little bit about life that really resonate with some people. I love the feedback that I get on those, and there'll be more coming. My website is also www.salva.live. So plus for the branding there.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Okay. So what is one final piece of parting wisdom you would like to share with our listeners?
Ooh. That's a good question. So many nuggets, so many good ones. I got one, and this is one of my favorites. That life is going to take twists and turns. Life is going to knock you down, pick you back up. Nothing's permanent, right? The only thing that's permanent is change. And for those out there who are learning about themselves and maybe experiencing some uncertainty, to buckle down and to realize, and this is one of the quotes from Uncle Tony Robbins, that says, the quality of your life is directly proportional to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with.
Absolutely true and absolutely beautiful.
So the answer, to tie it back to what we were talking about and what you said, when you find that self-love, when you're devoted to it, you create certainty within your spirit that allows you to deal with the uncertainty that's outside.
And we are going to close with that. Bam. Salva, I love you, my man.
I love you, brother. Thank you for having me on. This was so much fun.
Dude,
so much fun.
25 years old. All right, folks, we have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.
My man.